none of these for the KGP,
Morning everyone. I'm delighted to be here in Glasgow to introduce Joe Fagan and help launch his campaign to lead Scottish Labour. As someone who lives in the Highlands and stood for Labour in this year's Scottish Parliament elections, I know that many of Scotland's communities feel that we've stopped listening to them. To win them back, we need to champion communities in every part of Scotland and understand that a one-size-fits-all approach to policy isn't going to help solve the problems that Scots face every day. I'm backing Joe because he understands that Labour has to stand up for every community in Scotland. Too often, politics is shaped by the Holyrood bubble, while people in towns, cities, rural and island communities feel talked about rather than listened to. Joe's message is different. He believes decision-making power should be pushed closer to people, that local government should be trusted to deliver, rebuild from our communities up.
that we've been and we have to be honest about it. We have to learn the lessons jobs. Done properly, that can protect pensions and build local wealth. But being bold can not only mean defending what we have, it has to mean claiming the future. Scotland needs more good jobs, more skilled jobs, more high-value jobs, more work that gives people security and dignity and a future in the places they call home. If we want to protect public services, we need a stronger economy. If we want to improve services, we need to unlock the talents of our people. If we want to close that £5 billion fiscal gap facing the Scottish Government by the end of the decade, we need better paid work. If we want to reduce poverty, we need people in secure, skilled employment. And if we want young people to stay in Scotland, build a life here, and raise families here, we need to give them a future in skills, investing in innovation here in one of the most innovative cities in the world, and create next generation. Make sure those jobs are rooted in communities, not extracted from them. That's where our economic argument come together. Innovation cannot just be something that happens in a few buildings, in a few sectors, for a few people. The benefits of innovation have to reach the everyday economy. It has to reach the places that need hope, work and investment. It has to connect universities, colleges, councils, trade unions and local economies. It has to give working class people real power over the future, not just a promise that change will eventually trickle down. Stand for. Not managed decline, not a politics that asks people to accept less, not an economy where wealth leaves the places that created it, a Scotland where work is respected, where public services are protected, where the future belongs to working people. It's also why we must resist austerity. A Labour government has ended it, but SNP choices, misspent resources and misplaced priorities risk taking us back. Now let me be clear about this. Public service workers are not the problem. They are the people holding Scotland together. Our services, our schools and our NHS. Labour should stand proudly with them. And that means fair pay, safe workplaces, stronger collective bargaining and respect for trade unions. And it means being absolutely clear that Scotland cannot rebuild public services by cutting jobs, hauling out councils or using service reform as cover for cuts. Progressive alternative, early intervention, dignity As some people have pointed out in the campaign, this is apparently new to me, despite 20 years in the Labour Party. So, what we do at this point, we have some members of the press here. A few of them have got some questions. I've got a little note here that I'm going to run through. We're patient with through this as quickly as and make sure that everybody on this list gets the chance to ask a question. All right, I'm going to come to Ewan first from STV. Ewan.
You've talked in the past about putting an end to internal briefing within the party. Sure, none of that briefing is coming from your side.
Yes.
How can you do that?
Because I know my team.
How can you be so certain of that?
Because I know my team and I trust my team and they know what my expectations are for them. I don't tolerate that kind of internal briefing, and as leader I would stamp it out. Paul from the Daily Record.
Two questions. Your critics say that your strings are being pulled by Anas Sarwar's former team. You're not your own man and that you won't last the course. What's your response to that? And secondly, you made some criticisms of Scottish Labour's approach to the budget. I think the phrase you used was that Labour sat on the sidelines. Now, the person who was in charge of those budget negotiations was Michael Mara, your main rival. Is that a clear dig at him?
I'm not interested in making digs at any other candidates. I am interested in reflecting on the strategies that we applied in Parliament in the previous term and how things could be different in the term that's coming up. It's important to me that this 5-year term ahead of us is defined by more than the elections that bookend it. How we conduct ourselves as an opposition is going to help define who we are as a party and how we lead ourselves into that next election. And on the first point about my strings being pulled, I think it should be obvious from what I've said earlier today that that is not the case. I have plenty of criticisms of what went wrong before, and I've got ideas about how we can put it right. I'm my own man, and I'm nobody's puppet. Can I come to Mark from The Sun? Mark.
A couple of questions. So on your speech, you mentioned about closing the $5 billion gap through better paid work, but you also said that we don't do that by cutting public sector workers.
Yeah.
So how are you going to do that? Because the Scottish Government obviously says that the public sector will become too big. So how are you going to pay public sector workers more money, not cut any, and close that $5 billion gap? The second question, your first big stepping stone to becoming a government would be to put reform back in the box because we're in a challenging second place. What would be your clear blue water between reform on things like the local connection rule in Glasgow and maybe on the other side of the coin, special visas for care workers?
Right. So on the point about local connection, I have to say I don't think Reform fully understands the policy in relation to local connection. There are different rules that apply to people's residency. And on the point about visas, I support Unison's campaign for a fairer approach to visas because there are particular issues within the care system. And in terms of the problems that we have in addressing that fiscal gap, look, I don't think the answer is to cut jobs, because I think one of the problems that we are facing right now as a country is this long shadow that austerity casts. Austerity costs us all more in the long run. And what I would be seeking to do is remind the Scottish Government of the path they didn't take. The path they didn't take after the Christie Commission. And actually, good public service reform is about getting better outcomes and managing demand within the system. Preventing poverty, preventing inequality, because poverty and inequality cost us all more in the long run.
Regardless of what reform understands, what's your view on local housing? Should, the general principle, should refugees have the same priority as people who live here?
No, because on local connection, they do not understand the fundamental point. You could change the local connection rule and it wouldn't make a difference. The issues about the wider sort of UK immigration rules, and I would support the position of working with COSLA to find a collaborative way through this with all layers of government. Can I come now to Craig from the PA?
Can I ask about your views on a story in the Herald about Scottish Labour activists losing access to party campaigning tools after Anas Sarwar called for Keir Starmer to quit? And just on a similar note, should Scottish Labour separate from the UK Labour Party?
Right. So I've seen this story in the Herald today. I have to say, as a candidate in East Kilbride at the last election, it didn't seem to interrupt or interfere with our campaign. This was something that was largely unnoticed by me at the time. And on the point about separating the Scottish Labour Party, look, I don't think that's a viable way forward. Devolution, as Donald Dewar said, is about who we are and how we carry ourselves. And I want to carry myself as the leader of the Scottish Labour Party. Many years ago, after a previous defeat, we created this role that I'm seeking to stand for just now. Previously, the leader of the party in Scotland was simply the leader of the parliamentary group. We are now the leader of Scottish Labour. That's the position I'm standing for, and I will carry myself as a leader of the Labour Party in this nation. Could I come now to Louise from Holyrood Magazine?
Hi. So you said there that you would be willing to work with the SNP on passing a budget. So does that also mean the flip side of that is that you'd be willing to vote down a budget and therefore be part of a coalition that it could bring down a budget?
Yeah, I think our weakness was defining our position before the budget process had concluded. So, in council chambers across the country, councillors of different parties collaborate. Sometimes they vote together, sometimes they divide. It's all about the priorities you take into that process, and you can vote for a budget if it reflects them, you can vote it down if it doesn't, you can abstain. But the issue that I have is that we decided our position before we had concluded that process and before we had set out our stall and what we were seeking to achieve for the working people of the country. That's what's going to change if I'm leader. Okay, could I come now to Andrew from the Herald?
Hi Joe. You spoke at the hustings. I think we're the only candidate to speak at the hustings about the local council elections. They're now 9 months away. Do you think you can get the party ready and in a state to be competitive with those elections? And as a sort of follow-up to Lisa's question, ahead of the 2021 council elections, Anas Sarwar said no pacts, no deals, no coalitions. Now we've talked about Labour not being a party of commentators. You know, in Glasgow here, Labour were one seat behind the SNP, but there was never any talks. There was never any, they weren't able to go and talk to the Greens, and they basically gave Glasgow to the SNP. Would you allow your councillors to have talks, to have negotiations, to possibly form administrations with other parties like the Greens and Lib Dems, or the Tories, or Reform?
Yes. Okay. So, on the first point, I'm realistic about the position that we're in and the challenges that lie ahead. I will do my level best to build capacity to put us in a better place going into those local elections. We've got to be realistic about the fact that Reform were nowhere in the elections that took place in 2022. They are now a presence in Scottish politics. So there will be a Reform presence in council chambers across the country, and that leads me to your next question, which is that I don't think we should be setting arbitrary rules around who we enter into pacts with. I am very clear that I do not want to see Labour groups in coalition with Reform. But I have to say, these decisions should be taken locally. And what we do is we then submit those power-sharing proposals to our Scottish Executive Committee and we test them on merit. We test them on the policies and the objectives that we are able to secure in our power-sharing arrangement with other parties. I believe in devolution. It's been a theme of my speech today and my remarks the other night at the hustings. So I want local Labour groups to have maximum control over the power-sharing arrangements that they enter into. I trust them to do the right thing. The check and balance that we have in the party is the policy programme reflective of Labour priorities. That's the reason. I'll come to John from the Times.
Joe, you said that you said Labour cannot be reduced, as Andrew said, into a party of commentators. Do you think in the past few years the Labour Party's done that?
Sometimes, yes, they have, and that was the example I used. I think when we extricate ourselves from places and where power is exercised, we diminish ourselves. We should have confidence in our values, confidence in our ideas, And in response to the previous question, if people are willing to support us, then great, we can find compromise and we can make progress for the working people that we're here to represent. It's important to me that we re-establish Scottish Labour as a party of working class people in Scotland. And one of the ways that we do that is by demonstrating in practice who we are for, what we stand for and what we're trying to achieve.
So is that the lack of ambition and ineffectiveness then demonstrated by the party leadership in Scotland?
I mean it as a constructive criticism, John. And that's not the kind of remark a puppet candidate would make. Last but by no means least, Andrew from the Scotsman.
Continuity won't cut it. Why do you have so many of Anas Sarwar's close allies back in your campaign?
Because I'm a good candidate. I think it's really important that this contest is not defined by gossip and internal manoeuvrings. This contest has to be defined by the candidates and the strength of their ideas. And what you will see from this campaign over the course of the contest are new ideas around how we conduct ourselves in the Scottish Parliament, how we exercise power, and how we build for that next election where we are going to, where I'm going to stand to be First Minister of this country.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I don't have any more questions, but thank you very much for being here. I gather there are biscuits. Thank you.